when the life of a newborn is at risk. A devoted pit bull desperately tries to warn its family, but its actions are misunderstood as a threat. Will they realize the truth before it's too late? A gripping story about instinct, loyalty, and redemption. Take a moment to listen to this emotional story. If it touches your heart, don't hesitate to support the channel by hitting subscribe and leaving a positive comment below. Your support is the driving force that helps this channel grow every day. Thank you so much. The quiet suburb of Cedarville was known for its tree-lined streets, neatly trimmed white picket fences, and peaceful way of life. Ethan and Rachel Carter had just moved there, eager to start a new chapter with their growing family. Their daughter, Lily, only 6 weeks old, had already become the center of their universe. And alongside them was Bruno, a 3-year-old pit bull with a brindle coat and intelligent eyes. Years ago, Ethan had rescued Bruno from a shelter during one of the darkest periods of his life. Since then, the dog had remained his unwavering companion, a loyal friend who had never left his side. Despite his strong, muscular build, Bruno was gentle and affectionate, but Rachel had never fully trusted him. She loved animals, but from a young age, she had heard too many stories about pit bulls being unpredictable and aggressive. Now, with Lily in their lives, her anxiety only grew stronger. Every little noise from the baby monitor made Rachel tense up. She often found Bruno sitting quietly outside Lily's room, ears perked, alert as if standing guard. One evening, as Rachel rocked Lily to sleep, she noticed faint scratch marks on the nursery door. "Ethan," she called, worry lacing her voice. "Do you see these marks?" "I think Bruno's been scratching at the door." Ethan frowned. "I don't think so. Rachel has never destroyed anything since the day I brought him home." But Rachel's unease didn't fade. A few days later, the marks became more noticeable. And then, through the baby monitor, she began hearing faint whimpers in the middle of the night. She tried to dismiss it, convincing herself it was just the paranoia of a new mother. But the feeling that something was wrong grew stronger, gnawing at her, refusing to be ignored. Finally, to ease her worries, Rachel suggested installing a baby monitor with a camera in Lily's room, just to keep an eye on Lily, Rachel said, though deep down, she knew the real reason. She wanted to watch Bruno. Ethan hesitated for a moment but eventually agreed, hoping this would ease Rachel's anxiety. A few days later, on a quiet night, Ethan and Rachel sat on the couch, laptop open in front of them, reviewing the footage from the baby monitor camera in Lily's room. The screen flickered to life, displaying a peaceful scene. Lily sleeping soundly in her crib. Everything looked completely normal. Until Bruno appeared. The pit bull moved cautiously into the room, head lowered, tail gently wagging as if uncertain. He crept closer to the crib, so near that his breath fought up a corner of the camera lens. Rachel held her breath. She stared at the screen, an overwhelming sense of unease washing over her. "But what is he doing?" she whispered, tension thick in her voice. Ethan furrowed his brow but said nothing, his eyes locked on the screen. They kept watching. Bruno placed his front paws gently on the crib's railing, leaning in to peer inside. His posture wasn't aggressive, but Rachel's fear only grew. "I knew it," she gasped, her voice trembling. "Ethan, this is exactly what I was afraid of. He could hurt Lily. I can't let this continue." Ethan clenched his fists, torn between his loyalty to Bruno and the need to reassure his wife. "He hasn't done anything, Rachel. He's just curious." Rachel turned to him, eyes filled with worry. "And what if that curiosity turns into something else? Are you willing to wait until it's too late?" The argument dragged on late into the night, their voices rising with each exchange. Rachel was resolute. For Lily's safety, Bruno had to go. Ethan's heart felt heavier than ever, but seeing Rachel's unwavering determination, he reluctantly agreed to start looking for a new home for Bruno. They planned to make arrangements with a wicked decision that left them both emotionally drained. Bruno, sensing the tension in the air, curled up outside Lily's room. He didn't leave, like a silent guardian. He lay there all night, watching over the little girl he had sworn to protect. They had no idea that he still held a secret yet to be uncovered. A truth that could change everything they believed about Bruno. Ethan sat motionless in the living room, his head buried in his hands. Silence filled the house, broken only by the soft, rhythmic breathing of Lily through the baby monitor. The decision to let Bruno go weighed heavily on Ethan's chest. Memories of Bruno floated back, vivid as if they had happened just yesterday. He remembered the first time he had seen him at the shelter. A tiny, frail puppy with fearful eyes, filled with a desperate plea for a second chance. Back then, Ethan had been lost too. The grief of losing his father had left him adrift, struggling to find his place in a world that suddenly felt too vast, too empty. But from the very moment their eyes met, there had been an unspoken connection, a silent understanding between two souls searching for something to hold on to. From that day forward, Bruno had become his anchor. Through the loneliest nights, when the darkness felt suffocating, Bruno had been there. He didn't need to say anything. He simply stayed, pressing close, his warm breath against Ethan's skin, offering comfort in a way words never could. And now, the thought of losing him felt like betraying the one friend who had never once let him down. Rachel's voice echoed from the kitchen, pulling him back to the present. I just can't trust him. She hesitated, searching for the right words. But this isn't about you or me. It's about keeping Lily safe. But to Ethan, it was personal. Bruno wasn't just a dog. He was family. He understood Rachel's fear. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was letting her anxieties cloud reality. That night, Rachel sat beside Lily's crib, watching her daughter's tinny chest rise and fall in peaceful slumber. Her face was soft, flushed with warmth, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm raging around her. For Rachel, her love for Lily was everything. And yet, for the first time, doubt began to creep into her mind. Had she been wrong? Was she really protecting her daughter? Or had she been blinded by her own fears? Rachel's love for Lily was everything. The mere thought of something or someone posing a threat to her daughter was enough to make it hard for her to breathe. But deep down, she couldn't shake the knowing guilt creeping into her heart. She had seen Bruno's gentle moments. The way he patiently lay outside Lily's door, his eyes fixed on her crib as he were standing guard. The way he nuzzled into Lily's blanket when he thought no one was watching. A question kept circling in her mind. Am I doing the right thing? Or was she letting her fear of what Bruno was blind her to who he truly was? The tension in the house grew heavier by the day. No one spoke about it, yet it was everywhere, lingering in the quiet, filling the space between them. Bruno didn't understand the arguments, but he felt the unease. He remained outside Lily's room, ears slightly drooped, his sorrowful eyes following the people he loved most. And in his mind, only one thought remained: protect this family. At any cost. Once a playful and carefree dog, Bruno had grown quiet, more watchful. He followed Rachel everywhere, his gaze never leaving Lily, as if he had become her silent shadow. For Rachel, this only deepened her fear. But Ethan saw it for what it truly was: Bruno's instinct to protect. A loyalty so steadfast, it was unshakable. One evening, Ethan sat on the floor, carefully packing up Bruno's old toys, preparing for the inevitable. The day he would have to let him go. A quiet shuffling of paws made him look up. Bruno had come closer, moving slowly, as if sensing something was wrong. Then he lowered his head onto Ethan's lap. His deep brown eyes, filled with silent questions, seemed to ask, why? Ethan swallowed hard, his fingers trembling as he ran them through Bruno's fur. You wouldn't understand. Buddy Tay, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I'm just trying to do what's right for everyone. But how could it be right when his heart was breaking? Bruno didn't move. He just lay there, his unwavering gaze locked onto Ethan's, as if he truly understood what was happening. As if he knew That goodbye was coming. From the doorway, Rachel silently watched, an unexpected softness creeping into her heart. She never wanted her family to be in this situation. Everything she did was for Lily's safety. She reminded herself of that constantly. But she couldn't ignore the pain in Ethan's eyes, or in Bruno's. Yet, her fear remained. Every time Bruno got close to Lily, Rachel didn't see a guardian. She saw a threat. One afternoon, as Lily lay on her stomach, struggling and whimpering during tummy time, she suddenly let out a frustrated cry. Before Rachel could reach, Bruno bolted toward her. He didn't growl, he didn't bark. There was no aggression. None at all. Instead, he gently nudged Lily with his nose, as if trying to comfort her. But to Rachel, it was too close. Bruno, no, her voice rang out, sharp and panicked. She lunged forward, scooping Lee in her arms, her heart pounding in her chest. Bruno flinched, startled by the sudden outburst. He took a step back, his ears flattening, his deep brown eyes filled with confusion. He didn't understand. He had only wanted to help. That moment deepened the divide between Rachel and Ethan. The distance between them grew wider. Arguments became more frequent. Their love, once strong and steady, was now stretched thin under the weight of tension. Like a rope pulled so tight, it was on the verge of snapping. But through all the chows, through all the misunderstandings, Bruno remained the same. Steadfast, even as he was pushed away, even as he was misunderstood, he never abandoned the family he loved. Because he knew a real danger was lurking in the shadows, and every night, he continued to curl up beside Lily's crib, silent and watchful, as if he were pleading for one last chance to prove his loyalty. But to Rachel, it only made her anxiety grow stronger. But to Ethan, this was undeniable proof of Bruno's devotion, a loyalty so unwavering, so absolute, that nothing could shake it. The entire house seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable. Would this tear them apart, or somehow would it bring them closer together? And the quiet moments, when Lily slept peacefully and Bruno remained ever watchful, patient as always. Even Rachel began to wonder, had she been wrong all along? Yet, the tension between her and Ethan remained at a standstill. Their conflict had reached an impasse, seeping into every corner of the house, making the air thick unspoken words and unrelenting doubt. Rachel's maternal instincts, sharp as ever, had been amplified by fear, so much so that she refused to budge. To her, Bruno was a threat, but to Ethan, giving up Bruno felt like betraying the one friend who had stood by him in his darkest moments. And in his eyes, Bruno had never done anything wrong. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a war between two deeply rooted emotions. Fear versus loyalty. Rachel's anxiety wasn't only fueled by what she saw, but by everything she had ever heard about pit bulls. To her, they were dangerous, unpredictable, impossible to trust. But Ethan didn't see Bruno as a breed. He saw him as an individual, and that fundamental different perspective became the spark that reignited their arguments, over and over again. Each time the tension grew heavier. Each time the divide between them widened, as if their own battles weren't enough. Society's perception only made things worse. Neighbors, friends, even strangers at the park kept their distance whenever they saw Bruno. The wary glances, the cautious steps backward, unspoken judgment. And though Rachel never admitted it aloud, those reactions planted even deeper seeds of doubt within her. The wary glances, the hesitant steps, all of it lingered in Rachel's mind, fueling the doubt she couldn't shake. But what if they're right, Ethan? Her voice wavered one night, fragile beneath the weight of her uncertainty. To what if we're just being naive? But while Rachel was droning in fear, Bruno's behavior only made her unease grow. He was always there by Lily's crib, by her side, on constant alert, attuned to every little sound the baby made. To Ethan, it was a devotion beyond question. But to Rachel, it was a warning sign, a ticking bomb waiting to go off. The same question haunted her over and over again. Am I protecting my daughter, or just feeding my own fear? To Ethan there was no doubt. This was loyalty. This was Bruno's instinct, to protect, to guard, to love. But for Rachel, it was a relentless reminder of the threat she believed lurked within their home. Yet, this battle wasn't just between her and Ethan. It was happening within her. A war between her love for animals and the ferocity of a mother's instinct. She felt torn, caught in an endless spiral of doubt. Was she being careful, or was she being unfair? And if she was wrong, if her fear was misplaced, then what if she was the one pushing her family toward an irreversible mistake? The breaking point came on a bitter cold Wednesday night. Lily had been crying all day, her tiny face flushed from an unexpected fever. Rachel, exhausted and overwhelmed, placed her daughter in the crib before fumbling for phone to call the pediatrician. Her breath came in short, uneven gasps. Her hands trembled as she pressed the numbers on the screen. And she had no idea that in just moments, everything she believed was about to be tested. In the middle of the call, Bruno suddenly erupted into a fit of wild barking from Lily's room. The sound echoed through the house, louder, more frantic than ever before. It wasn't his usual bark, it was urgent. A warning. Rachel froze, panic spreading through her chest like wildfire. A what now? She muttered, her heart pounding as she bolted up the stairs. She barely registered her own footsteps as she rushed to Lily's room, throwing the door open. Bruno stood on his hind legs, front paws braced against the crib's railing. Lily was crying, but something was wrong. Her cries weren't loud and full of life like before. They were faint, broken. A chill ran down Rachel's spine as she gasped. Her Bruno, get down, as she lunged forward, scooping Lily into her arms, immediately feeling the fever radiating off her tiny body. Her skin was burning, but just as Rachel clutched her daughter close, something made her pause. She turned to Bruno. He wasn't barking at Lily. He was barking at something else. Something in the corner of the room. His deep brown eyes locked onto a single point, unmoving. His entire body was tense, his muscles coiled as if ready to pounce. His ears stood erect, listening. Then a low, guttural growl rumbled from his throat, a sound that wasn't meant for them. Rachel's breath hitched. A cold shiver crawled up her spine. She held Lily tighter, stepping back. Then without hesitation she rushed out of the room, shutting the door behind her. Her hands trembled as she clutched her daughter. She had never seen Bruno rate like that before. She had never heard him growl at. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she reached for her phone, dialing with shaky fingers. Ethan, she whispered, her voice barely steady. Did Bruno just saved her? Ethan. I think Bruno just saved her. That night, Ethan opened his laptop, his heart pounding, as he clicked on the footage from the baby monitor. As the video played, his breath caught in his throat. Lily twisted in discomfort inside her crib, her tiny body restless, her breathing heavy. Sweat glistened on her forehead, and then Bruno appeared. He rushed into the room, leaping up against the crib, his entire body tense with urgency. He barked, then turned sharply, staring into the corner of the room, a place where there was nothing, just a blank wall. But what sent a chill down Ethan's spine was that Bruno wasn't barking to alert them about Lily. He was barking to protect her, to shield her from something unseen. Slowly, Ethan turned to Rachel, his expression filled with confusion and disbelief. For the first time, Rachel no longer saw Bruno as a threat. She saw him as a guardian, a savior. Bruno stepped forward, ears all alert, nose twitching as if trying to make sense of something in the air. He approached Lily, lowering his head gently, pressing his nose against her. But she didn't react. Her tiny chest rose and fell in weak, shallow breaths. Her skin was burning, her small body was limp in an unnatural stillness. A wave of panic rippled through Bruno. He barked again out, desperate. His eyes were wide, frantic, his tensed body rigid, as if pleading for someone to notice. Then came a loud, guttural growl. Not of aggression, but of desperation. The shocking truth: he had nothing left. Nothing but the desperate instinct to warn them. Rachel, you need to see this. Ethan's voice was strained as he pulled up the footage from the bay-by monitor camera. They both stared at the screen, watching as Bruno appeared, standing silently beside Lily before desperately trying to wake her. He didn't attack. He wasn't aggressive. He was trying to save her. As the video played, showing the exact moment Bruno let out his deep, guttural growl, Rachel froze. Her hands trembled as they instinctively flew to cover her mouth. Her breath hitched, her vision blurred. Oh my God! A tear slipped down her cheek. She had been so sure, so certain that Bruno was a danger, a threat lurking within their own home, but now he was protecting Lily in the purest, most selfless way imaginable. The truth shattered everything. For the first time, Rachel began to wonder, had she been wrong all along? Not just about Bruno, about everything she had ever believed. That night, the house was eerily quiet. No arguing, no words, suffocating silence that carried the weight of everything they had just witnessed. And yet, despite the stillness, the tension between Rachel and Ethan had never felt lower. What they had seen, what they now knew, had shaken the very foundation of everything Rachel had held onto for so long. She sat beside Lily's crib, her eyes distant, unfocused, watching her daughter sleep peacefully, unaware of the storm that had just unraveled within their home. Within her, a lingering doubt, the thoughts swirled relentlessly in Rachel's mind. What if she had been wrong all along? What if, in trying to protect her daughter, she had turned her back on the one who had been protecting them all along? And Eunice warning Lily's fever had broken, but she was still weak and sluggish. Ethan suggested taking her to the pediatrician for a checkup. This time, Rachel didn't argue. She simply nodded. They began gathering their things, preparing to leave. But something felt off. Bruno was acting strangely. His energy was different, restless. He followed Rachel closely, his movements quick, urgent, his eyes never once leaving Lily. Every time she got near him, he let out a soft, anxious whimper, as if he was trying to warn them. And then, as Ethan placed Lily into the car seat, Bruno barked, loud, fierce, more intense than ever before. Then in a flash, he darted toward the door, planting himself firmly in the entryway, body rigid, chest heaving. A message clearer than words. Donnet, go. Donnet, take her outside. There's danger waiting. Rachel's voice shook as she turned to Ethan, fear creeping into her every syllable. Ethan, what's wrong with him? I don't know. Ethan muttered, kneeling down to calm the dog. But Bruno didn't settle. He didn't stop. His growls deepened. A sound not of aggression, but of urgency. A desperate plea. Bruno's barking grew more frantic. His sharp eyes never left Lily, not even for a second. Rachel's patience snapped. But this is exactly what I was afraid of. He's too unpredictable. But then, Ethan noticed something different. This wasn't aggression. This wasn't a threat. This was desperation. Urgency. He stared at Bruno, a strange feeling creeping into his chest, a hunch he couldn't ignore. Rachel, he said slowly, his voice heavy in the thick silence. Fair's trying to tell us something. Hesitation flickered across Rachel's face. She wanted to dismiss it, but something in Ethan's voice made her pause. She took a step back as Ethan unbuckled Lily's car seat. The second the latch clicked open, Bruno lunged forward. Not to attack, but to inspect. His nose pressed against Lily's teeny chest, then her face. Searching, and then he bartered. More urgent, a warning clear as day. Something was wrong. Rachel's fingers dug into the edge of the car seat. A cold wave rushed through her body as she leaned in closer. She saw it. Lily's breathing was shallow. Her tiny lips had lost their pink hue. Her pale, unnaturally pale. A storm of fear crashed over Rachel, drowning out every doubt she had ever clung to. A race against time. Do we have to go? The Rachel's voice cracked with sheer panic. No more hesitation. No more doubt. She and Ethan raced to the hospital, their hearts pounding with every passing second. Time blurred into a frantic rush of flashing streetlights and the rhythmic ticking of the dashboard clock. The diagnosis at the hospital. The doctors moved quickly. They examined Lily, their faces calm but focused. Then came the news, and it felt like the ground beneath Rachel's feet had vanished. The fever was just the surface. Beneath it, Lily's tiny body was linked a severe respiratory infection, a condition that could have turned life-threatening if left unnoticed. Bruno had known. Before anyone else, he had sensed something they couldn't see. And if they hadn't made it in time, Rachel couldn't bear to finish the thought. The pediatrician reassured them, his words meant to offer comfort, but they did nothing to calm the storm raging inside Rachel's heart. It wasn't until she sat in the cold, sterile waiting room, under the harsh glow of hospital lights, that reality truly sank in. Bruno was right from the very beginning. He had never been the threat. He had been the protector, the silent guardian, the loyal companion, waiting patiently for the chance to prove what he had known all along. He was the only one, aside from Rachel and Ethan, who had loved Lily with everything he had. When they returned home that night, Bruno was still there, right where he had always been, lying outside Lily's door as if nothing had changed. But this time something had changed. Not Bruno. For the first time, she didn't look at him with doubt or hesitation. For the first time, she saw him for what he truly was, a part of their family. Without hesitation, Rachel stepped toward Bruno. She knelt down, and, for the first time, she gently placed her hand on his head. For the first time, it was the first moment Bruno had ever felt her acceptance. And when he leaned into her touch, pressing his head against her palm, she knew. They had just crossed a threshold, a place they could never return from. Because now the truth was clearer than ever. Bruno was never the monster. He had always been the silent hero. Bruno remained seated beside Lily's empty crib, his deep brown eyes lifting as Rachel knelt beside him. His ears twitched. His tail gave the faintest wag. But he didn't lunge forward like he always had. He simply waited. Waited for what he had longed for all along. Acceptance. Rachel took a shaky breath, emotion tightening her throat. Her voice barely above a whisper. Her Bruno, I'm so sorry. The words cracked as they left her lips. She ran her fingers through his warm fur, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. We were wrong about you. At the doorway, Ethan stood frozen. His chest tightened at the sight before him. For weeks he had fought to protect Bruno. He had defended him in every argument. But this moment, seeing Rachel finally accept him, meant more than any words he could have ever said. This wasn't just a shift in perspective. This was healing. A family rebuilding trust that had once been broken. Determined to make things right, Rachel took the initiative to bring in a professional trainer. Not to fix Bruno, but to better understand him. To learn his instincts. To ensure that their home, especially for Lily, would always be safe. She no longer saw Bruno as just a pit bull, a label weighed down by stigma and misconceptions. Now she saw him for what he truly was, a loyal protector, an irreplaceable member of their family. And Bruno felt it too. Though he could never say the words, he understood. At last he was truly accepted. As Lily grew, she and Bruno became inseparable. Laughter filled the backyard. Tinny footsteps pattering alongside a big, devoted companion, small arms wrapping around a strong, steady frame. Moments so pure, so full of love, they soon covered the walls of their home. Photographs of a bond that would last forever. Once paralyzed by fear and doubt, Rachel now became an advocate. She spoke up for the very breed she once distrusted. She educated herself. She shared her family's story, hoping to help others see the truth behind pit bulls. Not as dangerous creatures, but as loyal, loving companions. The Carter family took their journey online, determined to challenge the misconceptions that had nearly torn their own home apart. Bruno has taught us more about loyalty, love, and trust than we ever imagined, Rachel wrote in a heartfelt post. We almost let fear take away one of the greatest blessings in our lives.